Yo, what's up? 1 year ago, I dropped my Lobia guide for all nations, which was viewed by many players, liked by many players, and used and implemented by many players, giving them great armies, lots of fun, and strong builds. Since then, though, the game added tons of new weapons, tons of new items, and even new game mechanics and maps. This means it's about time to update this guide and show you the most recent, strongest, most fun and most viable builds that you can use for your army setups for all nations, and also some advanced strategies that you can use in combination with them. I will give you recommended setups for both free-to-play accounts with limited 4 slots and also bigger army setups, and then quickly tell you which premium squads are worth getting if you want to spice up your low BR armies. So, what's important to know about BR2? First, it's the most played BR, because every new player starting in BR1 eventually, after a few hours of grinding, unlocks BR2 items. And since the highest item in your army decides which BR you are, most of them will be BR2 very quickly. And many of them also stay in BR2 because unlocking BR3 takes forever, and even older players who play the game for many years love to stay at BR2. Because BR2 nicely isolates you within the BR1, 2 and 3 bracket and keeps you safe from the high BRs. And this provides you with the most historically accurate and realistic gaming experience in the game. Because not only are almost all weapons you will see on the battlefield commonly used weapons during World War II, but also due to the limited power level, the battles feel more realistic. The battles feel not too fast and not too slow, and you can see all types of weapons used, all types of strategies, infantry, planes, tanks, special structures like anti-tank guns and so on. Engineering is very viable, slowing the enemies down and building fortifications and flanking maneuvers. Everything is viable. All types of tanks are played, meaning very light and fast tanks and heavier and slower tanks and medium tanks. Same thing goes for the planes. You have some highly equipped planes with very strong bomb loads, but very slow and weak. You have some very fast fighter planes who can't deal too much damage on the ground, but keep the air safe. So overall, BR2 is the perfect ecosystem where everything the game provides can be played with success and a lot of fun. And this is where we start with our first nation, the Germans. Germany isn't only the most popular, most played nation in the game, but also the by far most flexible one. And this becomes clear when you compare their tier 1 and tier 2 items, the sheer amount of weapons and vehicles you can choose from, to the complete tech tree of Japan. Yes, Germany literally has as much in 2 tiers than Japan has as a whole nation in all of their BRs. So this huge amount of choices, and it becomes even clearer once you start clicking on the folders, because many of them are filled with 3 different weapons. Yeah, this is just great, and this means you can build an army without any downsides, without any blind spots. You can perfectly round out your setup to be able to deal with everything, so no matter what your enemies are doing, you can always outplay them, and no matter how stupid your team is, you can always carry your team to the victory. Starting with the rifles, you already get crushed by choices, but there are 3 clear winners. First, the standard K98K, which comes with the best sights in the game, making it very easy, fast and fun to aim with it. And it features the full package of a bayonet, so you can charge and stab enemies quickly on short range, and the high damage and precision of bolt actions. Only downside is it isn't too fast, but it's also not too slow. So for everyone who likes this weapon, be it for the handling or the historical accuracy, this is a great choice. Then, the faster version, the pre-war K98K, this weapon is overall better because it's faster. Only difference besides that is the different sights. Now these sights are a bit worse, they're harder to aim with, it takes a while to get used to, but once you did that, this weapon is just straight up better than the other one. So this is also a viable choice, and it's basically a preference question, which sides you prefer and which sides you want to use. And then the by far fastest bolt-action rifle for the Germans, the Mannlicher. This one, fully upgraded, features a fire rate of over 70 and of course still keeps the high damage and precision. Only downsides are the worse sights and the lack of a bayonet. So on short range you aren't as mobile and flexible, but if you like sniping enemies across the map, this is one of the best rifles you can have. You also get access to semi-auto rifles in form of the Italian Amaguera, though this one is not recommended as it's extremely imprecise, very unreliable, and even though the stats look good, most often you will be forced to hit your enemies twice, even on short range, which means your enemies will have enough time to shoot you back, and if they shoot you back with a proper bolt action, you're dead. So yeah. Next come the sniper rifles, and they feature something very cool that only the Germans get. First, you have the fast firing and very hard hitting pre-war K98K as your standard bolt action sniper rifle, but you also get the first Italian Carcano sniper. Now this one comes with one bullet more, is slower though, but the best feature of this weapon is that it comes with just a small magnification sight. This means if you use both weapons on the same soldier, you can use the pre-war as your long-range sniper rifle, and if enemies are closer to you, you just switch to the short magnification sniper rifle, being able to see them much better. So this gives you basically a perfect sniper that can snipe on all ranges very effectively and doesn't get overwhelmed by enemies who are too close. So yeah, this is extremely good. Also the reload is quite fast on the Sniper Carcano, since you can reload all bullets at once, whereas on the pre-war K98K you have to reload them one by one, because the scope blocks the area where you usually would insert your stripper clip. So yeah, German snipers, very strong, very underrated due to this feature of the nice synergistic weapon combination. Next we get over 15 SMGs to choose from, with the MP40 being not only the last but also the strongest unlock. Keep in mind, tier 3 is not BR3, the tier is just the way these weapons are aligned in the tech tree. It's not BR, BR is still written here, and everything coming before the MP40 is also BR2. Question is, which ones of them do you want to play? As you can see, there's a lot of stuff to grind. If you want to reach the MP40, you rather not waste any time on these folders, because this way you will just have to grind much more. So you just preferably go in a straight line to the MP40. Out of these weapons, there are three good ones. The first one being the FNAP, since it's the one that comes with 40 bullets, good damage, and a sadly slow fire rate, but the slow fire rate combined with the very low recoil means it's a perfect headshot machine. And it looks quite cool. So if you like being very precise with your SMGs, this is a perfect weapon. Absolutely worth, and as all weapons recommended here, of course upgrade them all to get the perfect high stats. Many weapons, especially SMGs, require maximum upgrades to get their 2-hit potential on enemies. So, and also more better precision, higher fire rate and so on. So the FNAP, really precise weapon. After that you get the exact opposite of the FNAP, you get the PPSH Abres, meaning cut off PPSH. This one features an insane fire rate of over 1000 with the upgrades and limited damage in return. This weapon is a pure short range weapon. You even trying to use it at mid range can be problematic and will just mean that you're wasting your limited magazine size while spraying around the map. So you better use it in combination with some other SMG. Perfectly, since this comes after the FNAP, you can just dual wield them both, and you can use the FNAP on longer ranges and the Abres on short ranges, and then you have a perfect combination similar to the one with the sniper rifles. After that you unlock the MP38, which not only looks almost identical to the MP40, but is almost identical. It's just a bit slower and has a bit more recoil. Overall, if you want to save silver and grind, it's okay to just unlock the MP38 and play that, and only much later, after you unlocked everything else you want, go over to the MP40, since they are very similar. If you want to have the perfect SMG though, the MP40 is the greatest one. Why? It features a perfect combination of stats. High damage, okay enough fire rate, or actually good fire rate compared to many other SMGs here, and really good low recoil and even very high recoil control. So this weapon is absolutely perfect together with the MP38 if you want to have a nice all-round SMG. All the other SMGs on this list are variations of these three SMGs with overall worse stats. So if you consider using one of the other ones, you could do it for fun, but if you want to have the strongest weapons, these three are the by far best ones. Next we get the machine guns, with the Breda being useless and by far the worst, and the MG13 and ZB26 being the good ones. Important to point out here, they are a great combo too, similar to the sniper rifles, because MG13 comes with a slow fire rate for a machine gun, but a good magazine size and good low recoil, making it perfect for long and mid-range. The ZB comes with an insanely high fire rate, but with horribly offset sights, making it very hard to aim, and also much worse recoil. This means the ZB is perfect for spray and hipfire weapon on short range, especially if you see a squad in front of you to just quickly spray it away. The MG13 on the other hand is too slow for that, but it's perfect for mid and long range sniping. So you preferably want to play both weapons on one soldier and then switch between them depending on the distance your enemies are engaging you at. Or if you just want to use one weapon, the MG13 is definitely better, since the ZB overall is too specialized and has too bad stats and has too bad sights in order to be used as your standard machine gun. Next we get the heavy weapons, and since we are out of BR1 we don't have to use the weak Panzerbüchsen anymore. Instead we get the Sturmpistol and GRB. Sturmpistol is good if you want to be mobile, because it doesn't give you a movement penalty. You can run around quickly and flank tanks and shoot them from the side, but it's very imprecise on longer ranges. And this is exactly where the GRB comes in, which is a modification of the Panzerbüchse 39, using heat shells, meaning no matter how far your target is away, you will penetrate it. It also is very precise on long ranges, and also comes with great damage and great penetration. Keep in mind, this weapon takes a while to get used to, so spend 10 minutes in a practice range shooting at the targets, so you can quickly aim with it during battles. And then, once you mastered it, you will be able to snipe every tank across the whole map, no matter whether he's in front of you or sitting in the gray zone. This thing will deal with every enemy tank very reliably, even with BR3 tanks if they get down-tiered into your game. After that you unlock the bike, which is already too weak and too bad for BR1, so we don't want it, but we absolutely want the APC. Because this is the most useful and overall strongest arguably squad in the game, since not only does it give you high mobility, not only can you do nice flanking maneuvers with it, not only get you a nice selection of specialists, especially radio men, so you can start games in an APC, instantly call an artillery strike, and then drive to the action and start capping or defending, or drive to the flank and attack enemies from the sides. But it also works as a rally point. So whenever you park your APC somewhere, your whole team can spawn on it. And not only is this extremely useful and also very comfy to play, because you don't have to spend over 10 seconds building a rally point, but you can get it in addition to a rally point. So you always want to have an APC in your army, so you get an additional spawn source. Absolutely useful, basically necessary, and a must include in every army, and also very nice to have and very fun to play. And now we finally get to German's main specialty, the tanks. And BR2 is where Germany outshines all other nations, because the quality you see here is just insane. First, you get the best all-round tank, the Panzer III J1, featuring a really good cannon, which can penetrate easily every tank on BR2 and even tanks from BR3, which is especially important against Soviets, which like to bully you with their T-34s and KV-1s. The post-penetration damage isn't too high, because you only have 50 millimeters, but still you are ensured to penetrate, and knowing the weak spots or just hitting the enemy tank a couple of times means that your targets will be dead. This is great, and also you have an insane amount of ammunition, you have great speed, and you have overall good armor, and you have 5 crew members, meaning you can afford losing 1 or 2 of them without any problems. Combined, these stats make for a perfect tank. And this becomes especially clear if you look at the other nations later, where you see that not a single nation gets such a good all-round tank. All the other nations have to either deal with low speed, bad armor, bad cannons, bad penetration, or bad something, and they also suffer from low crew member numbers. But this tank features everything without any downsides, just a perfect, very nice tank to have. Also very beautiful, and also great for the early Eastern Front 1941 experience. 2 unlocks later, we get the most feared tank of low BR, the Panzer IIIN, which keeps all the advantages of the Panzer III series, especially the insanely fast reload speed, but it also gets some nice side skirts on top of it for additional protection, and very importantly, it comes with a short 75mm, which has the highest anti-infantry damage output of all tanks on low BR. If you see any enemy infantry on the map, they will all die against this tank. There's no way to defend. The fire rate is too high, the explosion radius is too high, the damage is too high, and due to your mobility you can quickly flank and get into all positions to get the best angle on your enemies. So this tank is the absolute menace against enemy infantry, but it's also quite good against around 80% of all the tanks you're seeing. If there weren't some really overpowered BR3 tanks that will be down tiered against you quite often, this would be the by far best tank for Germans. But since this happens and you don't want to use a Panzer IIIN against Soviet T-34s or KV-1s, the Panzer IIIJ1 is the overall best tank. But there's a third bad boy in the German tank family, and it's the newest edition, the Marder III. Looking at the stats, you see it's very fragile, it has basically no armor, it's open top, every seagull can be a death sentence, every Molotov will one-shot you, but in return you get the strongest cannon of low BI, especially for Germans, the PaK 36 with its 76mm, long, very long, meaning you penetrate every enemy tank and you one-shot every enemy tank. And it doesn't even matter which one it is, also BR3 tanks get one-shot by it. And this is exactly the reason you might want to have this in your lineup, because once those Soviets start rolling their T-34 waves, this is your best friend on the Eastern Front. Also useful against American howitzer tanks, which are also not only very dangerous once they start shooting, but also quite well armored. Yeah, so overall, the Marder is a good addition that you can combine together with either the Panzer IIIN to have a perfectly distinct anti-infantry, anti-tank lineup, or just to have it in addition to the Panzer IIIJ1 if you are really scared of enemy tanks and really want to make sure no enemy is gonna bully you with his tanks. The German planes give us similar options as the German tanks, because here we have one all-round plane and 2 specialized planes. First, the all-purpose plane, the Romanian IAR, which comes with insanely good bomb loads for a fighter plane and insanely good armament with its 2 nicely supplied 20mm autocannons and 2 little machine guns on top of it, and overall quite a good speed for low BR and also quite a nice turn rate. Now, this combination itself is really good. Only downsides are you're made out of paper, you're very easily destroyed. For a fighter plane, your turn rate isn't that good, and your climb rate is quite bad. But still, if you only want to use one plane in your army, this is by far the best. It's by far the strongest. Nothing comes even close to having such a perfect all-round plane. But if you really want to have insane firepower in your hands, you get the German Stukas. Not only very nicely historically accurate, not only some of the sexiest planes ever built, but reaching this triplet in the folder, you can see you have 3 different ones. The first one is by far the worst, because it's just straight up worse than the last one. The middle one is sadly BR3, due to its very nice bomb load. Though ironically enough on BR3 it becomes unplayable, because they're just much better planes. So yeah, this plane is in a very bad spot. But then eventually you get to the Stuka D5. This one, unlike the first one, comes with 2 20mm autocannons with insane 500 bullets each. You can spray around for literally hours with this plane without running out of ammo. One of the nicest features to have on a plane, because many planes severely suffer from lack of ammunition. And you get a really good bomb load of 1 heavy and 4 little bombs. And you also get quite a good armor and a tail machine gunner, with only downside being absolutely horrible flying stats. You're extremely slow, you turn like a brick, and you can't even get it up because your climb rate is 12 meters per second. This is, yeah, when it comes to destruction, a perfect plane, but you better don't try to do any maneuvers. Now, is this bad? Here's the ironic part. It's actually not that bad, because it's very easy to fly. Bad flying characteristics means you can't do tricks, you can't outmaneuver enemy planes, but it's still very easy to fly, because you literally just need to fly in a straight line. So yeah, this is a perfect plane for beginners. Also with the first unlock of the 3 Stukas being the same but just a bit weaker. Because you don't need to do much. You just fly to your target, drop your bombs, turn around, drop the remaining bombs, and then just fly back to resupply, and everything's fine. So yeah, Stukas really good and offer you the biggest damage on the ground. Also very good to shoot down bomber raids, because since you're so slow, you're gonna keep a perfect angle for the longest time against the enemy bomber formation. And the 20mm are gonna absolutely shred the bombers. And as long as you have good positioning, you will also win all your dogfights. You just need to be the first one to start shooting at your enemy, because the 20mm also, especially on low BR, completely shred everything. And it's also very nice to strafe the ground with it, because not only the bombs are dangerous against infantry, but the 20mm too. And since many enemies on low BR are playing open top tanks like the M8 Scott or the MGMC or also APCs, they also quickly die from your 20mm. So yeah, Stuka, by many players, very underrated, because they just see the bad flying stats, but the offensive power on the Stuka is just insane. And then, extremely underrated, by many players not even noticed, the BF1 series, the German standard fighters of early war, with insanely good flying characteristics, basically the opposite of a Stuka. You get to choose from 2, BF109 F1 and F2. The only difference is that the BF1 comes with a 20mm autocannon with 90 shots. The F2 comes with a 15mm HMG with 200 shots. Now, which one is better? Clearly the second, because A, more bullets means you actually gonna, well, shoot down more targets. You cannot expect to be effective against bomber formations with this fighter plane, but you absolutely can with the F2. And since the 20mm shells are flying much slower than the smaller shells, you're gonna have a strong desync between your little machine guns and your 20mm, meaning your aim will be off. And your aiming assist circle on the screen also will be quite off. Meaning, the moment until when you finally reach a good aiming angle, you're gonna be out of ammunition. But this won't happen with the F2, because there the bullets fly quite similarly fast. Also, heavy machine gun ammunition has better penetration usually than 20mm. Because 20mm usually are HE shells with almost no penetration, but the heavy machine gun shells do penetrate a bit, meaning this plane is actually better against many enemy tanks on the ground that you want to strafe. So yeah, why is it good besides that? Well, it comes with 4 little bombs. So It doesn't have the heavy bomb of the Romanian plane, but it has much better flying stats. Very fast, one of the fastest plane in low BR. Very good climb rate. You can outclimb basically every enemy plane. And very good turn rate. Also, of course, upgrade all of these planes because then these stats become even better. And you also have quite a good armament, so you can take some damage before feeling it. You can oftentimes survive 3 to 4 dogfights in a row while being shot at by every enemy plane and then outmaneuvering it and killing it and then still be maneuverable. Combining all of this information, we get the following perfect German low BR setup. First, the core of your army, the machine gunner squad, bringing maximum versatility by having engineers for instant rally points at the beginning of the game, radio man for instant artillery strikes, and an anti-tank gunner with the very reliable GRB, and of course extremely high firepower with your 3 machine gunners. On top of that, you get an HMG nest, which can not only kill lots of infantry, but also snipe all of the engineer structures across the whole map, and even kill around half of all the enemy tanks right from the front. Because the penetration of the HMGs is really good and very viable in low BR. So this is the core of your army and a perfect defensive squad. Also quite good on the offense, but due to being quite slow, it's the perfect defensive squad for the Germans. Then you always want an APC, for all the reasons explained, for every single nation. As your third infantry squad, if you want to be perfect on the offense, if you want to be very fast and aggressive, the assaulters are insanely good, since it's almost a crime to not play an MP40 as a German, and it's also almost a crime to not have access to assaulters for every nation, because they're just the best attacking assaulting squad, as the name implies. Also, you can customize them to have a sniper, which can very elegantly deal with enemy snipers, but also enemies using machine gun nests and anti-tank guns and anti-air guns, because usually the head of the user is sticking out. So it's very good for that, and you can deal with curious tank commanders who are especially prevalent at low BR, with enemies constantly driving around with their tank commander sticking out. Yep, they instantly want a headshot from you, and you can provide it. And of course, the firepower for assaulters and versatility of an engineer and a tank gunner. If you prefer flexibility and a support role play style over pure attacking, having an engineer squad instead of the assaulters is a very good choice too, because then you get access to all the engineer structures like anti-tank guns and anti-air guns and so on. And you also don't really miss out on too much, because a fully equipped APC squad plays quite similar to an assaulter squad, since you have up to 3 soldiers with SMGs, and you also get the fast mobility and attacking power. Regarding the vehicle slot, the overall most flexible choice is the Panzer III J1, as already explained. Also, tanks over planes, usually the better choice, because there are 2 different tank slots that you can use at the beginning of the game, so the chance is very high you get a tank when you want it. For planes, if you only have 1 plane, since there's 1 attacker plane slot and 1 fighter plane slot in a match, you're always risking having exactly the plane in your lineup that is currently taken. So in order to avoid this, just having a tank is the most flexible choice. And also, if you're having engineers, you don't even need planes to deal with planes, since you can build anti-air guns. Now, if you start adding additional slots to your army, the next best infantry squad is of course the engineer squad, if you're still missing it. And then basically whatever you want, whatever you like, since it doesn't matter that much from that point, once you have the machine gunner, assaulter, engineer and APC combination. Regarding vehicles, try to round out your tank setup. So if you have 2 tanks, you can start splitting out into Panzer IIIN and Marder, or have just 3 tanks, so you play all of the strong German tanks. And if you like playing planes, you can also start doing the combos of the planes I recommended. So yeah, the German army overall, very flexible, very fun to play, and overall the strongest faction in low BR Enlisted. For those who want to spice up their armies with premium squads, here are the best picks. The first 2 of them being almost must-haves. First, the APC. As with every premium APC in Enlisted, these come with significant upgrades over the Tech 3 versions. Some nice armor, which is especially useful against all of the bolt actions and machine guns shooting at you, and also weaponry. The German one having the weakest, very quickly overheating MG42, but still very much welcome if you see enemies in front of you, giving them very quick death instead of letting them Molotov your APC. Then, if you like paratroopers, the very nicely, surprisingly inexpensive for Gaijin games priced Beretta Paratrooper Squad. Why is it so good? Well, it's a BR1 Paratrooper Squad, meaning you can play it on all BRs, even on BR1, which is quite rare for paratroopers. And since they are paratroopers who are using the paratrooper box after jumping out of the plane, they are scaling with all the BRs you're playing. So if you're playing in low BR, they will get the weakest stuff in the box. If you're getting into a BR3 game, well, you might see stronger weapons. And if you're playing later onwards high BR games, you will get the strongest weapons in your box. So these paratroopers are very flexible, very useful. And also, if you want to save on squad slots and flexibility, since the paratrooper box gives you access to mortars, gives you access to an engineer hammer that can build anti-tank guns and so on, you have basically a perfect all-round squad. So if your army is very inflexible, if your army is hyper specialized, for example, on attacking, having a paratrooper squad in your lineup gives you all the flexibility in one. And the best thing is you don't even need to buy additional squad slots, since you get a free premium squad slot automatically. Every player has that. Theoretically, you can just buy your one premium squad and put it in, and then you don't need to invest into additional squad slots. And the paratrooper squad is absolutely perfect for that. These are the two best premium squads to buy. After that, we have three good ones who aren't that good but still quite useful. First, we have the flame tank, which is insanely strong. By far the best flame tank in the game, since it comes with the fastest speed. Fastest speed means you can surprise your enemies, you can flank your enemies, and all you need to do is just survive long enough to reach the targets, because once you start spraying at them, they all instantly die. So the most important metric for a flame tank is his speed, because they're all very thinly armored, though the German one is quite well armored for a flame tank, giving you the perfect combination of stats to survive and just start creating damage on the battlefield. And the German partisans, which not only come with some funny outfits, but also with their captured PPSH. Yes, the strongest SMG in low BR, the Soviet PPSH, is in your hands now, and you can let the Soviets feel the pain of being on the receiving end of this weapon. And of course, you can give them a secondary MP40, so you're absolutely perfectly prepared for all the short-range engagements, and you can sneak around the gray zones of the enemies and create all type of havoc. And then, as a last recommendable squad for those plane connoisseurs who really like special planes, the BF-110 C6 attacker plane that doesn't have bombs, but it comes with a 30mm cannon. So if you really like strafing the ground and sniping tanks, this is the perfect plane for you. Very unique for Germans on low BR. Something like that usually doesn't appear in low BR, but here you can have it this way. Alright, that's it for the German army. Next we have the Americans. With the Americans, we get the exact opposite of the Germans, because now we are not drowning in choices anymore. We actually have to separate the bad from the good. Roughly half of the American weaponry is good, and the other half is bad. And you really want to avoid the bad ones, because they're just very, very bad. So, starting with the rifles, we get a really good situation, because the Americans have the overall best rifles to pick from. First, you get your standard Marine Corps Springfield. This is almost identical to the German K98K, with almost the same stats and also the same sights. So if you like really good sights, this is by far the best pick. Then you get the first specialty of the Americans, you get the M1 carbine, which is a really playable semi-auto rifle, since it, with the downside of having reduced damage, comes with the upside of 15 bullets. This means if you have a fast finger and good fast aim, this is an absolute monster on short range, even on mid range, but especially on short range. If you like dealing out very quick headshots to whole squads of enemies, this is the best weapon for you, and it perfectly mixes in with another bolt-action rifle as a secondary weapon on your rifleman. And then the last specialty, the Americans, or the Brits in that case, get the Lee Enfield 4. Now this is an absolute monster of a bolt-action, because despite being BR2, it comes with 10 bullets, which is already unheard of, and it still has a really good speed, despite carrying a bayonet. So you get both a good speed without getting the bayonet penalty. Yep, absolutely great, absolutely strong weapon. The sights require some time to get used to, but once you did so, this is an absolute monster. And overall, possibly the best bolt action in low BR, since it's just too many upsides, too many advantages stacked on top of each other. So yeah, the bolt action situation, the rifle situation for the Americans really good, and obviously whenever you can, it's recommendable to just dual wield M1 carbines with the good bolt action of your choice, so you get a nice long range weapon and also a strong short range weapon, which you usually don't get on standard rifles. For the sniper rifles, you get 3 choices, with the second and third one being the best. They're not too fancy, especially not compared to the German double combo, but still, if you like to snipe, they are good enough to do so. What's actually good is the SMG selection, because here you get unique stuff. First of all, you get the shotguns. Shotguns enlisted are all weak and badly designed weapons, because they're basically bad bolt actions with an extremely high damage drop-off over distance. But if you want to have fun, and if you want to dual wield SMGs together with Winchesters or Browning shotguns on your assaulters, this is exactly where you can do it. Other nations don't have this flexibility, but the Americans actually feature a really good shotgun. But the actual good source for the Americans is the Lanchester, because this is just an overall good package. It's a bit weaker than the MP40, but it's significantly faster. Now this means if you go for headshots, the Lanchester is the best SMG in low BR, because it combines good recoil, good damage, and really good fire rate all in one package, meaning you can very reliably headshot a whole enemy squad before they have the chance to shoot you back. So this is very much underrated for the Americans. Many people don't like playing Lanchesters, but guess what? This weapon absolutely delivers. I used to underrate it myself, but recently I just switched to playing only Lanchesters, and it's not only very fun, it's also very cool and very effective. Then you also have the grease gun, preferably the second one, which is just a straight upgrade over the first. The grease gun also very underrated because of its painfully slow fire rate, but it comes with the high damage, and this makes it basically the American FNAP, meaning a very slow firing but very precise weapon. It's also good for headshotting, but here's the problem. The FNAP has 40 rounds and it's more precise overall. So the FNAP is, despite it doesn't matter that the FNAP even has less damage, if you're headshotting it's good enough. So yeah, the grease gun in theory is good. When you're starting grinding the Americans, it's definitely good enough, but you absolutely want to get to the Lanchester as fast as possible, because what you're gonna notice with the grease gun if you play it often, it's just too slow. It's just too slow. It's good against it's good against 99% of all enemies, but if you're up against an enemy that's actually fast, you will feel the pain of having a slow firing weapon. No matter how good you are, your first shot will maybe be a headshot, alright, but you're gonna get shot back before you release your second shot. So yeah, that's the downside of the grease gun, but still really good. My recommendation is equip everyone with the grease gun once you get it. Unless you like fast firing weapons, then the stand is fine. though this 10 is very imprecise and low damage. So the grease gun is really good at that, and then I would try to get a Lanchester as fast as possible. And after that, just give the grease gun to all of your tankers and pilots, because having tankers using grease guns is very nicely historically accurate. Then, regarding machine guns, you get the worst nation out of all, possibly, because you have 3 bad choices. Fun fact, BR2 is the exact opposite of BR3 for Americans, because in BR3 Americans get the best machine guns by far, and they also get the best sniper rifle by far, but in BR2 they just get bad or medium choices, so you want to avoid machine guns in general for BR2. If you want to play one absolutely, then of course the Bren 2 is the best choice, but yeah, you don't really want to have a slow, clumsy weapon that also comes with bad sights and with a horribly obstructing magazine, and overall not too good handling. For the heavies, we get the bazooka and the Piat. Piat used to be better due to better penetration, but after the recent buffs, the bazooka became the best American or Western Allied anti-tank weapon once again. Also nice for historical accuracy and also very comfy to use, though keep in mind on long range you won't hit anything because the projectile becomes very imprecise. So unlike the German GRB, this isn't for gray zone sniping, this is just good for short range and maximum mid range. Then of course you get your useless bike and then the Studbaker, which is a cool looking truck and your standard APC. It's quite open, but it comes with quite a good speed, and also it doesn't get stuck as often as a German APC, so a good addition to your army, and of course must include being an APC. Now come the tanks, and here's where it gets complicated, because you have quite a few choices, but not that many, because the really good tank is the Sherman, which is obviously BR3. He would be way too good for BR2, so we are stuck with the BR1 tanks, which we don't want to play, the M8 Scott, which is in theory very good due to its insane 75mm howitzer. It's basically the American Panzer IIIN. But here comes the problem. It's almost unplayable since A, it has very little damage, very little ammunition. It has very thin armor, and it has a painfully slow reload and turret traverse speed, meaning your reaction time, no matter how good you are, is glacial. This makes it not only very easy for enemies to escape, but also for enemies to outplay you, be it with enemy tanks or with anti-tank rifles and so on. So this tank is literally only good enough for long-range gray zone camping. Anything else, it just fails at. Well, it has an HMG on top of it, okay, but it's also open top. So you see how much worse these American tanks are compared to the German tanks. Exactly, right? German tanks have no weaknesses. This tank, in order to get even something like 50% of the damage output of the Panzer IIIN, you have to suffer with all of these downsides. So M8 Scott, highly overrated. It's basically a trap tank. You won't really perform well with it. Then you get the Grant, which is the second best tank. Keep in mind it's better than the Lee due to its significantly better turret top armor, which is important on low BR because you're going to get constantly strafed by 20mm and 15mm. And the Lee will get penetrated, the Grant very likely not. The Grant itself is quite cool because it's a big tank with 6 crew members, so you can use it as a mobile assault squad. It has 2 cannons, though obviously the big 75mm is the more interesting one. But it comes with the advantage of insanely good armor. For BR2, these numbers are ridiculously good. And since it also has quite a good armor at the front and some slope parts, most enemies won't know where to penetrate you. And here's the secret: you want to shoot exactly in this spot, because behind that is an ammo rack and this is a thinly armored area and you're going to one-shot it. Most people try to shoot anywhere else and it doesn't work. So yeah, you're going to be performing quite well. as long as you avoid getting shot from the side where you get instantly destroyed. So this is quite good, but the tank is extremely slow, and it's also so big everyone's on the battlefield instantly seeing it, and there's a much better choice, and it's a Crusader. Extremely underrated because people think, oh, very thin armor and only 3 crew members and that's it. Nope. The thin armor is misleading because due to its perfect slopeness and very low profile, you're actually very well defended. Most often you won't get shot. Most often you won't even be spotted. Then you have a very high reload speed, similar to the Panzer III. You have enough shells to make sure the enemies suffer for a long time, and you have a really good 57mm HE output. So also your anti-tank shells are very reliable too. Now this tank is just the best by far American tank on BR2. Very underrated, extremely strong, and also fast enough to just dominate games. Like whenever I start a game with the Crusader, the first objective is taken basically instantly, because I know for a fact the first 20 to 30 enemies I see will be dead within 30 seconds. They can't do anything against it. The Crusader is just way too strong. And you see with this tank, also with the Panzer IIIN, how important a high fire output, a high fire rate on tanks is. And the Crusader gives you exactly that. So you absolutely want, if you want to play tanks, play the Crusader. And if you want a second tank, the Grant is the next best thing. Regarding planes, this is where the good stuff begins, because Americans are basically a plane nation on BR2, since they don't have, well, they have good rifles, and they have great rifles and great planes, and that's it. The rest is either okay or bad. Now, what are the good planes? Very simple. You get your P-38G attacker plane. And this is just the biggest powerhouse you can see on low BR regarding planes, since you get an insanely good speed, almost 700 kilometers per hour. Something like this you only see usually on BR5. You get a good climb rate and an okay turn rate. It turns a bit like a brick, but for an attacker plane it still turns better than most other planes on the BR. And you get really good offensive power by having 4 heavy machine guns and an autocannon, both with generous amounts of ammunition, mounted straight in your nose. Meaning it's extremely easy to hit your targets because your aim assist will be perfectly on point, and even without aim assist you can easily hit your stuff. And on top of that you get 6 rockets right under your nose. Once again, these are the most precise rockets in the game because you can aim exactly in the center of your screen. You just need to aim at the lower part of your screen circle, of your center circle, and then you're gonna hit your targets always. This plane is insanely fun to play due to its speed, its flying characteristics, and the precision of its weapons. As long as you see the targets first, there's no enemy plane that can defeat you. And thanks to your speed, you're gonna have a very high resupply rate, so you can constantly strafe the ground and rocket the ground and blow up every tank and every plane you see. Yeah, this is the absolute powerhouse that you absolutely want to play as an American. Then regarding fighter planes, you get 2 good choices. First, hidden behind the P-38G attacker plane, you get the P-51C fighter plane, and this one comes with an even more ridiculously high speed, an even faster climb rate, and an even better turn rate, together with 4 HMGs and 2 little bombs. It's very underwhelming against ground targets, but against targets in the sky it's insanely strong, and it's especially effective against enemy bomber formations due to its 4 HMGs and the infinite amount of ammunition. Alternatively, you can play the P-40E, which the Soviets also have one, but they get one with a heavy bomb in addition to the 2 little bombs. You, on the other hand, only get the little bombs, which is bad, and you get, compared to the P-51, much slower engine, a much weaker climb rate, though you get 2 more heavy machine guns. So it depends what you like more. Overall, the P-51C is better due to its speed and flying characteristics. There's just no way an enemy plane can win against the P-51. No way. It's just way too good of a plane in the sky. And the P-40 is overall just inferior due to being slower. Also keep in mind the P-40 is in the folder hidden, so it's going to slow you down on your grind to the higher planes. The P-51 also will slow you down being in the folder, but it's worth it, unlike the P-40E. There's one plane people like to throw in these discussions, and it's the Dauntless. Now the Dauntless, it's quite fun, because it comes with 2 HMGs, so you can shoot stuff in front of you. It comes with two machine guns in the back, so you have some nice defense against enemy targets behind you. And it comes, most importantly, with a super heavy 500 kilogram or 1000 pound bomb and 2 little bombs. So far so good, very great, extremely nice destructive power, and the super heavy bombs are always fun to use, but it is extremely slow. It's absolutely painfully glacially slow. It has one of the worst climb rates in the whole game, possibly also in the whole war, and one of the worst turn rates you can imagine. And especially considering such a slow plane, it should be faster at turning, but it's not. And it starts from carriers, so if you're playing in the Pacific, you can, on top of the slowness, calculate a 1 minute delay until you reach your first target. So overall, this plane is just basically unusable. It's much better to just learn how to aim the rockets for the P-38G and instantly start in the sky, no matter the map, and instantly rocket your targets without them having a chance to escape. So yeah, this is the situation for the American planes. And fun fact, everyone who played before the merge could unlock a fighter squad that plays the same P-38G as the attacker squad. So you can have the same plane on both different types of planes, which is the only instance in the whole game where this is possible, which is very cool and fun, since, yeah, the P-38G is just so nice, the more of them you have, the better. Regarding the overall free-to-play army composition, we are a bit more flexible than the Germans because we have less choices, meaning without any good machine gun, we want to maximize our firepower by using an assaulter squad. And the assaulters themselves, you can either just, well, you can dual wield a Lanchester with a grease gun, or Lanchester with a Browning, or 2 Lanchesters, or 1 Lanchester and ammo pouch, however you want it. Just make sure you play a Lanchester because it's just way too strong and way too good. Then, as a secondary squad, you either want an engineer squad to deal with the enemy threats, although if you're playing planes, you don't need them since your plane is also already universally capable of blowing up tanks and planes. But even if you just play a Crusader, you don't have to fear any enemy tanks. So this opens up a nice Rifleman squad. Why Riflemen? Well, you can either play them as Grenadiers by giving them 3 grenades and 1 rifle, 3 grenades, or you can play them as the unique American setup with a primary bolt-action rifle, whichever you want, and a secondary carbine. This means you have an absolute Terminator Rifleman squad that's great at long ranges, that's good to quickly capture or quickly hold a point due to its 9-man big size, and unlike most Rifleman squads, which are just not that strong at fighting, especially on short ranges, with the M1 carbine you can deal with enemies on all ranges. So yeah, you have a perfect flexible squad for all situations. Almost like basically machine gunner squad, since machine gunners are also quite slow, but have higher firepower than assaulters. This squad, yeah, also is not that fast. Not as fast as a assaulter squad, but still the damage output is high. Especially since your bots will always pick whatever weapon is better for the current situation, meaning your bots will be much deadlier than normal bots in the game, since you have 2 completely different weapons, and the bots will always choose the weapon which is much more likely to hit the target. So yeah, Rifleman for Americans on BR2 very good and very useful. And of course you want an APC. And regarding vehicles, as already explained for the Germans, tanks are the most flexible choice, and the Crusader is a really good choice too. If you expand into more slots, the next best choice to add for infantry is an engineer squad. And regarding vehicles, make sure that you get definitely one Crusader and then one P-38 attacker plane. This combo is just too strong to miss out on, and make sure that you can deal with everything your enemies put in front of you. After that, it doesn't really matter what you add, because the rest is not that strong. The remaining weapon types and squad classes won't give you too much. But you can spice up your lineup with some premium squads. First and foremost, the American LVT APC. This is not just very nicely armored and very nicely equipped APC with 2 heavy machine guns and 3 normal machine guns, so much more firepower than the German one, but it can also swim. It's very slow, the slowest out of all, and on water it's even slower, but it almost has more firepower than, well, it has definitely more firepower than most low BR tanks. So yeah, really useful and really fun to play, and a great addition to your army. Beyond that, there's not too much. There is one useful tank, the M42, which comes with an insanely good cannon and okay armor, but the cannon is what makes it so strong. It's really fast. It has a heavy machine gun, it has a normal machine gun, it has 5 crew members, which isn't something you get on low BR that easily for allies, and the cannon one-shots every German tank. So yeah, if you don't mind the thin armor, it's the best stuff you can get. And there's also, for everyone who likes Brit bonging, you can get the Hurricane 4, which, despite being just a BR1 plane, comes with a 40mm cannon, actually 2 of those. It's almost like the Stuka Cannonbird modification with 2 37mm. It's perfect for blowing up tanks on the ground. Though, keep in mind, it's very hard. So this is a very fancy plane for everyone who likes a different flying experience, and for people who want to roleplay Spitfiring, you can also do this by just playing one of the 2 Spitfires. Keep in mind though, they all come with some up and down sides. Overall, the first Spitfire is by far the best, because it has 4 20mm and enough ammunition in each of those. The second one has only 2 and barely any ammunition, and the 4 little machine guns don't really matter. So yeah, if you want a pure fighter that makes sure everything in the sky dies, the first Spitfire is fine, though I wouldn't play it over the American fighter planes when it comes to performance. Now we come to the Soviets, which are similar to Germans in terms of being very well rounded, with great infantry and vehicles, but also with some Soviet bias on top of it, because this nation has some very unfair things, and we're gonna find them out now. First, which bolt actions do you want to play? Well, the standard choice would be the Mosin carbine, which, despite being a bit slow, comes with really good sights, basically the same sights as the Kar98K, so this is your perfect standard rifle, and of course bayonet, high damage and so on. Then you get the fastest bolt action rifle in the game, the Winchester. Isn't technically a bolt action, but it works like a bolt action enlisted. It comes with even higher damage, an insanely high fire rate, and as the only downside, having no bayonet and a bit annoying sights, but once you get used to the Winchester, it's insanely fast. It's so ridiculously fast, it's basically like a perfect semi-auto rifle. Keep in mind, if you spray semi-autos, if you click too fast, they lose precision. So you optimally want to take a little break after every shot, and the Winchester shoots exactly the same way. Yeah, so if you click as fast as you can with the Winchester, you get basically a completely overpowered weapon. Regarding sniper rifles, the communist economy gives you the Mosin, and that's all you get, and you better be happy with it, because if you complain, you know what happens. The Mosin sniper rifle is playable, yes, but that's all there is to it, because it's just very slow and it doesn't have any fancy advantages. So similar to Americans, the sniping on low BR isn't too good with the Soviets. But the big powerhouse of Soviet low BR gaming are the SMGs. More precisely, the PPSH-43. You have a few SMGs, not many. You even have a shotgun, but it's one of the worst in the game. But here comes the deal. The PPS-43 is the by far strongest SMG on low BR. It comes with an insanely high fire rate. A fire rate that you usually only see on BR4. It comes with a strong 35 round magazine, with really low recoil, and with normal damage, and quite a good recoil control, and so on. So it's just insanely overpowered, overbuffed weapon, if you look at the stats, and all of this in one package. Absolutely no downsides, no weaknesses involved. It's basically a BR3 weapon that you can play on BR2. The PPS-43 is even so strong that you can completely ignore the PPSH Abreast, since you don't need a specialized short-range weapon, as the PPS-43 is already extremely good on short range, and on mid-range too. So yeah, this weapon is way too overpowered, but it's okay because it gives the Soviets their distinct nature of being the strongest BR2 infantry nation, at least when it comes to SMGs. When it comes to machine guns though, you get the Danish Madsen, which is not too liked, not too well appreciated by players, understandably, since it has some of the worst recoil pattern in the whole game. You literally can't expect to hit anything once you start spraying with those insane horizontal recoil stats. Also with a very low recoil control, sadly. But it comes with a 25 magazine size, so yep, it's okay. It's a good semi-auto rifle, but that's it. It's fine as a machine gun, but only if you have really good positioning. But if you just want to win games, there's no reason to play machine guns over the PPS-43. So yeah, the Madsen is sad because barely anyone touches it, but it's understandable. When it comes to anti-tank choices, you have something funny, because you have the M1 bazooka that the Americans lent lease to the Soviets. So you have something really good on short range, but most importantly you have the semi-auto PTRS-41, which comes with all the advantages of an anti-tank rifle, but without the disadvantage of a slow fire rate since it's semi-auto. This makes it very useful. You can spray into tanks until they're blown up. You can quickly shoot at enemy tanks trying to find an angle without having to reload after every single shot. And it's perfect for sniping structures across the whole map. You can even snipe planes with it thanks to the semi-auto fire rate. So yeah, this is very good. And for optimal army setups, I would either mix, so having PTRS and bazooka both in my lineup, or play only PTRSs. Because if you're close enough to a target that the bazooka is good, the PTRS also will be good due to its quite good penetration on short range. But on long range, the PTRS completely outperforms the bazookas. And it has, of course, significantly more utility. And it's even a good semi-auto rifle against enemy targets, which is fun to use since the enemy bodies explode once you hit them. So yeah, it has some meme value too. Overall, you really want to have anti-tank gunners in your Soviet army, because the utility of the PTRS blowing up enemy structures will be constantly an upside in low BR battles. Then of course you get your Gus AAA truck, which is a must-grind target for your army, as for every nation. And then finally the tanks. Now the tanks are very interesting for the Soviets, as they experimented with many different designs. And some of the interwar period tanks are ridiculously cool. For example, the T-28E. Make sure you play the E version, which is significantly improved, especially regarding ammunition, compared to the normal version. Now this tank comes with some insanely good features. First of all, you get a 76mm cannon. It doesn't penetrate too well, but it functions similar to the Panzer IIIN in terms of being extremely good against enemy infantry. Then, being a land ship, meaning a big tank with multiple turrets, you get your triple turret design with triple machine guns, and they all fire at once. So if you click once, you shoot instantly 3 machine guns on the same target. You don't even need to aim, they're all perfectly aligned, which is ridiculously fun because you'd see 3 different sprays on your screen, and guess what? Everyone getting hit by them dies. No matter how far away, you don't survive 3 machine gun hits. You also have lots of ammunition for them, and you also have quite enough, well, defense. Why? Because if you look at your tank, you will see that there's so much stuff on this tank that unless the enemy knows exactly where to hit you, yeah, he will penetrate, but he will only take out 1 or 2 soldiers. You still have the remaining 4. You can still perfectly quickly reload, and you still can drive and shoot. So despite the low armor numbers, the tank is very tanky. Only downside is you're slow. But having 6 crew members, having a really good anti-infantry cannon, and also still good enough against tanks. Keep in mind, the German tanks, and in the future when the Soviets fight against Japanese, they are not too tanky. Yes, the German tanks have some good numbers, but still, this cannon is very good. And it easily one-shots or two-shots every target you shoot at. So this tank, very strong, very dangerous. Just make sure you don't get attacked from the side, and you're going to dominate the battlefield. And since you have 6 crew members, it's also a good mobile assault squad, as you can just drive towards your objective, kill everything while you're doing so, and then leave the tank and start capping or defending with your soldiers. So yeah, absolute must play. Absolute must play. If you want a second tank, the Soviets give you the underrated T-50. Why is it underrated? Because it looks much worse than it actually is. The armor numbers aren't too good. They look medium, but look at this. From the side, it's perfectly sloped. From the front, it's very perfectly sloped. And even the turret has some sloped design. So this tank, unless the enemy knows where to shoot, which is exactly in the center of the turret, will survive many hits. It's extremely fast. And it has a fast-firing cannon. The cannon itself isn't too strong, but similar to the Panzer IIIN, you can easily deal with hordes of infantry, and you can easily deal with smaller, weaker enemy tanks, and especially structures. So if you want a tank that's perfect for flanking and mobile warfare, and especially for driving into the objective, into the front line, and just distracting lots of enemies with your mobility and your fire rate, this is the perfect tank for that. Next we have the planes, and here unexpectedly the Soviets turn into the strongest plane faction of Lobia. Main reason for that is the land-leased P-40E. If you compare this to any other fighter plane of Lobia, you will see a good speed, good flying characteristics, and some insane damage output by having 6 heavy machine guns with lots of ammunition, and 1 heavy bomb and 2 medium bombs. This fighter plane flies better than almost every other plane on Lobia, and it deals more damage than any other plane on Lobia, despite being a fighter plane. And it still shoots down everything in the sky. It's basically a completely unfair, overpowered fighter, and even better than the American planes, although most people would expect Americans to have better planes. But no, this Land-Lease plane is just ridiculously strong. And if you want to play one plane, this is exactly it. It's just extremely good. If you want to play attacker planes, you have 2 good choices, or 2 viable choices. First the IL-2, and then the Su-2. Now, which one's better? Simple, the Su-2 is better because the flying characteristics are just way superior. Not only are you significantly faster, you also have a reasonable climb rate and an quite a good turn rate. Whereas the IL-2 is slow as hell, has, despite having an okay turn rate, basically no climb rate at all, so you're basically a flying brick. Now the damage output of the IL-2 is really good. You get 4 little bombs and 8 rockets. It's hard to aim with them, but once you master this plane, you're very dangerous, and you get 2 autocannons, which is quite nice, and also a tail gunner. Though the Su-2 comes with tons of little machine guns, 4 in the front, 2 in the back, and 6 medium bombs. And you're gonna hit many more targets with your 6 medium bombs than with the IL-2's weaponry. So overall, Su-2, way easier to use, way stronger, and just way more dangerous. Now, if you want to next level your teammates, since most people will use the P-40E, it's smart to just use the Su-2 instead of the fighter plane, because the fighter slot will be taken most often, so keep that in mind. Now, what does it mean for your army composition? Simple. You want always to use Soviet assaulters. They're just way too overpowered, way too strong. The PPS-43 is just the strongest gun in low BR. And, of course, an APC. Since you already have the best offensive power, you can afford to have a slow support squad. Now, you could play the machine guns, though with the Madsen you're not too well served, so having an engineer squad instead is really good. Not that you need the utility, but it's very nice to have it. It's also quite fun to have it. So yeah, you could theoretically also just play a rifleman squad for the big manpower, but engineers overall are just way too useful. And if you come against an enemy team that is very capable with their pilots, you really wish you have some anti-air guns. So yeah, the engineer squad will be very useful in those rare situations where the enemy team is significantly superior to yours. And if you're playing only one vehicle as a free-to-play account, the T28E is definitely the best choice. Once you start expanding your slots, adding either a T50 to just go full into tanks, since you already have your anti-air guns from your engineers, is a good decision. Or if you're a good pilot, just slap a P-40E and Su-2 together, and then you get some really perfect vehicle setup, since now you have one of the best tanks on the ground and you have the 2 basically best planes you can have in the air, and there's absolute dominance on the battlefield secured. Regarding the remaining squad, it doesn't matter that much, since these are very strong, well, except for the engineer squad, very overpowered squads, assaulters and the 3 vehicles. It doesn't matter that much what you add on top of it. If you want to have fun, you can add an anti-tank gunner squad and just snipe enemies with the PTRS-41. Or just play machine gunner squad if you want to have fun with the Madsen, because the Soviet HMG, the Dishka, is the best overall in the game. Extremely fast, extremely precise, and also very good angles in terms of aiming, so you can very reliably shoot down planes with it. Regarding premium squads, the Soviets have many nice choices. First, of course, the APC, which is an American M3A1 Land-Lease half-track. Very good, isn't too well armored, but it has an HMG, which doesn't even overheat too quickly, so you can very nicely shoot down enemies with it. And also you're basically ensured to win every APC battle with it, since the Germans only get an MG42, and you get an HMG, which can just shoot straight through the front of every enemy APC. So yeah, really good, really strong. And guess what? APC battles actually come up. They are not too rare, especially if you and your enemies know the good flanking spots. You will constantly get into contact with enemy APCs, trying to outflank each other. And having a machine gun, HMG even, mounted on your APC becomes very useful in these situations. Then you get the nice tank destroyer, Su-76, which, being an open top, isn't too tanky, though I've noticed, despite being penetrated basically always, the composition of your armor and the position of your crew means that you basically always survive with 3 or 2 soldiers. You basically never get one shot, so you still can keep shooting. Meaning your cannon will basically always return the fire and deal with the enemy tank that tried to kill you. So very strong. The cannon along 76 is ridiculously good. It one-shots every single tank. It's similar to the Marder, but the cannon is overall better. And the vehicle is overall better because it's actually much more survivable than the Marder. Due to many reasons, one of them also being the fact that you're much slower with your profile than the Marder is. So yeah, really good tank, also very fun, because yeah, it's basically what the Stux should be. It's like a much less tanky Stug. And it shows why the BR3 Stux should be downranked to BR2, because then the Germans would get something similar, since all they have is the Marder, which is absolutely not comparable to these highly performing tanks. So yeah, Su-76, really fun and cool to play. Then something very fancy, the Rocket Artillery Squad. It's Radioman Squad, but instead of having 2 Radiomen, you get 4. Yes, this dude is surprised himself, you get so many. Meaning, even if you start getting shot, you still basically always have 1 left to keep calling artillery strikes. And it can call the famous rocket artillery, also all the other stuff. And on top of that, they come with a sniper rifle. Yes. This squad is possibly the most flexible, most versatile squad in the whole game, because it's a fast calling rocket artillery squad with sniper rifles, with a universal engineer that can build all the structures. So if you want one squad that can do everything, this is exactly the squad you want. And this weapon itself is quite fun. It looks very nice with the red wood. It's a semi-auto sniper rifle, which you also don't get on low BR usually, and it combines that with quite a good precision. So overall, just very good stats. You get only a small 5 magazine size, yeah, and your magnification isn't too big, but it's better because, yeah, guess what? With such low damage on longer distances, it's even better if you're preferably aiming on short to mid-range. So great weapon, very fun to play, very unique to play, and if you just want to get one squad to fill in every role, this is exactly what you want. And for those waiting for the Soviet buys among the premium squads, here it is. You can get the paratroopers, which seem to be a BR5 squad, but you can change their weapon. Yes, unlike other nations, you can give the Soviet paratroopers any weapon you want, meaning they're perfectly flexible and can be played on all BRs, making them the best paratrooper squads in the whole game. Yeah, so if you want another highly flexible squad, this is even more flexible than the rocket artillery and as flexible basically as the APC. Actually even more flexible than APC, because APCs can't be played on BR1. The vehicle itself is BR2, but these paratroopers can be put on the BR1 lineup, where they will get very often BR2 and BR3 weapons, because the weapons they get out of the crates, for example, can be machine guns. So you get your BR2 machine guns that you usually won't be able to get in BR2. Same thing goes for mortars and sniper rifles and so on. So overall, with the Soviets, you get a very strong, very dangerous, and in many aspects very overpowered, overbuffed nation. Very close to power to the Germans, only slightly behind due to the fact that the Germans have a perfect weapon for every single class and squad type, whereas the Soviets have at least some small downsides. And of course, the Soviet player base isn't the best, whereas the German one is more reliable when it comes to playing the game properly. And for the end, we have the Emperor's Chosen, the Japanese. This nation is the most extreme out of all due to its small tech tree, giving you not only holes quantitatively but also qualitatively, since some of these weapons are horribly bad, but others are horribly good. And this is exactly how you want to play the Japanese. You want to go all in into their offensive power. And starting out, we get one of the best beginner rifles actually, or kind of beginner rifle. We get the Arisaka 38, which for BR1 rifle comes with an insanely good fire rate, really good sights, and the full package with a bayonet. So this is a really good Really good standard rifle for your soldiers, but you also get a good semi-auto rifle. It's not the type Otsu, it's the type Hei. Keep in mind they're almost the same rifle, so the type Otsu is just a ridiculously underpowered BR3 rifle, but the type Hei is a well-powered BR2 rifle. It comes with some standard, a bit low, but still high enough damage. It comes with 5 bullets, but it comes with some really good precision. So although the stats aren't too good, it's reliable as long as you use it on short range, and it comes with a bayonet. So overall, it gives you the situation of wanting to dual wield if you're playing rifleman, the Arisaka for longer ranges and the type Hei for short ranges. Very strong combination, also very good since both have bayonets. You can charge with both of them into your enemies. Then, regarding sniper rifles, you get one, and this is also painfully slow. But here comes the best part, you don't even need to play it because you get a machine gun with a scope later. So you absolutely don't want to play snipers as a Japanese, but you really want to play some SMGs because you get quite a good selection. And among them, one sticks out the most, and it's the Type 2A, due to its basically non-existent recoil. It might be the weapon with the lowest recoil overall in the game, especially after upgrading, and the damage is normal, so you don't suffer any downsides. It has a really good high fire rate, normal damage, normal precision, and basically no recoil, and also a good 30 round magazine size. This weapon, although it looks like a toy gun, is just overpowered, and it's one of the weapons that are perfect for headshotting. Whereas other nations give you something like a grease gun or FNAP for headshots, this one gives you an overall high quality SMG that, thanks to its superb stats, can just be used as a sniper rifle on short range. So yeah, really good, really strong. And for those who like shotguns, you also get the Browning. Yes, because the Japanese apparently found enough of those in captured American camps and supply hubs. So yep, the Browning, after unlocking the partisans, also playable, though Pacific maps are usually horrible for shotguns since the distances are not really suited for them. And even on short range, the fights are so hectic due to all of the bushes and so on where people are hiding and gonna surprise you. You'd much rather have a fast firing SMG than a shotgun. And now comes the main attraction, at least the first one, the Type 97 machine gun. Yep, it's a machine gun with a scope. If you look at the stats, it's very similar to an BR5 German FG42. Because what you get is, you get quite high damage, standard machine gun damage, you get a good fire rate, you get good recoil, you get quite a good precision, though keep in mind when scoped in, the recoil you see is much, much stronger than what you usually would see. And you get 20 bullets. And this is almost exactly the same as what the German FG42-2 gives you. Very same damage, the same magazine size, similar precision, though the German weapon is faster with more recoil. So, well, you get the same recoil due to the scope. So you basically are getting a BR5 weapon on BR2. This in itself is already insane, but it comes even better since you have the scope. And this scope is absolutely perfect for Pacific maps, as you can hide everywhere on the map and just start sniping across the whole map. This is ridiculously good. This is ridiculously good, very effective, also historically accurate, as the Japanese were known for sniping tactics on the Pacific maps, and just gives you a very nice, unique feeling, as no other nation has a weapon like this, not only on any BR, but especially on low BR, where this weapon completely outshines everything else. So playing machine gunners For the Japanese, it's an absolute must. There's nothing that's even close as good as this one. And then we come to the anti-tank rifles, and here it gets completely insane. You have the choice between the Type 97 anti-tank rifle and the Type 5 rocket launcher. Both are really good weapons. First, the rocket launcher, coming with the best penetration you get on low BR, and being very precise, even on longer ranges, and overall great stats, with the only downside being it's hard to aim with it, because you literally don't have any aim help. You have to aim at the center of your screen. If you want to make absolutely sure tanks explode when you hit them, this is the thing you want. But it gets even better, because on BR1 you get the Type 97 and a tank rifle that combines multiple overpowered stats. First of all, you get the best damage in the game when it comes to the tank rifles, and overall when it comes to weapons. You start out with 250 on short range and 230, 240 on mid range. Meaning, no matter what you hit, it's gonna die. If it's infantry, it's gonna die. If it's armored targets, as long as you penetrate, they're also gonna explode. There's nothing that can survive. You can perfectly snipe structures with it, and you can even one-shot sandbags with it. Whereas usually sandbags are perfect for absorbing damage, even from anti-tank rifles. So this is good. The penetration is fine, also even on longer ranges. And here comes the best part. It is a semi-auto rifle with 7 rounds. So whereas other anti-tank rifles are either slow, or have low damage, or low penetration, or small magazine sizes, or whatever, this weapon comes only with upsides. And the combination of all of this is just completely insane, making this one of the absolutely best weapons in the game. Even playable on high BR, due to its versatility against structures. And it's also a great semi-auto rifle, since you can just snipe infantry with it. And it's much better at it than any semi-auto rifle, even at BR3. So make sure to play as many of them as possible in your army. When it comes to tanks and planes, Japan doesn't offer many options. Neither does it offer quality, because the tanks are okay and the planes are horrible. Ironically enough, since Japan was known for, at least in mid-war, for its high-quality planes. Problem with the tanks is the first tanks are all very weak. And they're especially weak against the American tanks, since the Americans come either with their very slick Crusader or with their strong and big Grant. And then Japan simply can't penetrate the 76 or 50 millimeters anymore. Yeah, and the Japanese tanks can't take shots themselves. So what are you going to play when you want to play tanks? There are two choices. First, you get the Hoi, which offers a overall well-balanced tank. It comes with 50 millimeters. It comes of both hull and turret. It comes with a 75 millimeter cannon, though not as good as the Panzer III cannons. And it comes with machine guns, though keep in mind the Japanese vehicle machine guns are among the worst in the game, since these come with only 20 bullets. So you have to constantly reload them. They will never overheat, because there's not enough ammunition to overheat. But you rather have a machine gun that's overheating but can at least shoot 30 to 40 bullets than a machine gun that can only shoot 20. So yeah, this is quite a problem. And yeah, there's nothing special about these tanks. They are simply good enough, but that's it. They're just good enough. And they're worse than the American tanks, and since you're constantly tank dueling and enlisted, that's a big downside. If you want an overall tank, all-purpose tank, the Hoi is the best you get. If you want a tank to destroy enemy tanks, you get the tank destroyer Honi, which, as usual for low BR, comes with an open top. But it comes with quite a potent, long 75 cannon, which actually one-shots the American tanks. Downside is, though, you don't have a machine gun. And being open top is double bad in the Pacific. The maps are so open and planes are constantly flying around, that you're gonna get instantly strafed. Also, you're gonna get constantly flanked from the sides, and then the Americans are gonna snipe your crew. And most importantly, since you're playing against Americans, they will constantly use the good planes, meaning you will get 100% strafed. So don't expect to survive for too long with the Horny. If you have multiple slots, it's an okay second tank, but it's also just the best you get, but nothing you would absolutely want to play. Regarding planes, it's ironically enough even worse, since all the Japanese planes, except for the few last unlocks, start on carriers. Meaning you're wasting around 30 to 60 seconds before you even see your first target. This is more than enough to lose an objective. So this is already very bad. Second downside is, since the American planes don't, almost all of them don't start on carriers, they are gonna be always the first on the objective, so you don't have a way to intercept them. Which is a big problem, since if the objective is open and the American pilot is competent, he's gonna blow up the whole objective and you can't do anything. And this is just way too bad, way too ineffective, making Japanese pilots oftentimes a liability to their own team. But it gets even worse. If you look at the Japanese planes, they're basically all ridiculously slow and come with ridiculously weak armor and armament. They are paper thin, especially against the American HMGs, which are standard, and they don't shoot well themselves, since they usually only have small machine guns, and the bomb load also sucks. So it's basically extremely underpowered plane performance of the Japanese versus the ridiculously overpowered American P-38s. It's actually the most one-sided matchup you get in the whole game. Now, if you want to absolutely play a plane, there is one that's at least remotely playable. It's the A6M2 Ryzen, which is still slow, but okay. It's quite fast for low BR, especially for a Japanese plane, and it has and that's the only upside of Japanese planes. It has very good flying characteristics regarding climb rate and turn rate. You can very precisely turn with this plane. You can afford yourself some very dangerous maneuvers without crashing into the ground or into trees. And it comes with 2 autocannons, making it actually capable of shooting down enemy planes, because your little machine guns won't do anything against the well-armored American planes. And of course, to insult you, Gaijin gives you 2 little bombs, which won't do anything, but yeah, still, that's the best you can get. Keep in mind, if you're playing bomber maps, you don't start on carriers, so you don't get a penalty, but yeah, that doesn't make the Japanese planes much better. If you want to expand your army, you might want to include a tank after all, because not every match will be sweaty, and not every game will be filled with American air dominance and crusaders, making it almost impossible to survive in your Hoi. For these matches, being the one player with the tank that dominates the battlefield with his tank is a good choice and is exactly what you might want. If you want to fill out multiple vehicle slots, also using a Honi as a secondary tank might be good, because then you just constantly trade with the enemy tanks, which is good on defense since you don't mind dying, unlike attackers. So yeah, for those situations, having 2 tanks might be actually really good. And of course the IM Ryzen plane, since there's nothing better to use instead. Now, regarding infantry, you might want to play an anti-tank gunner squad, since they can use 3 anti-tank gunners, and then you just give every single one the Type 97 anti-tank rifle. And you're going to get a very fun squad, since sniping infantry across the whole map and even sniping planes and tanks with it is just ridiculously fun. And of course you can also build anti-tank guns. So yeah, anti-tank gun squads quite useful. And rifleman squads due to the combo of Arizaka and Type Hei. But also partisan squads, because the Pacific maps are basically the best maps for partisans. Since they offer lots of areas to hide, lots of areas to flank from, and due to the objective design and objective progression, you can for a long time stay in the back area with your partisans and harass the enemies even after they started capturing the next point. So yeah, if you like partisans, playing Japanese is really good. And regarding premium squads, there are two good ones. Well, one good one and one okay one. First, of course, the APC, which comes with thin armor and weak machine guns, but still better than the normal tech tree version. And it's the only one that you can buy for gold in the shop instead of normal currency. And then you have the Sniper Squad, which has its main advantage of looking cool, and that's it. But, well, it comes with 5 sniper rifles compared to just 1, which is cool, since every single soldier can snipe, and no matter how many you lose, you will always still have a sniper being able to snipe. And sniping is really useful in Pacific, as I already explained. And they also come with Universal Engineer, making the squad even more useful on the Pacific campaign maps. Alright, that's it. Now you know everything about Lobia Enlisted. You can see it's complicated and a lot of information due to the 4 nations, but knowing and understanding all of this makes the game much easier and also much more fun, since now you can decide yourself whether you want to win or lose a game, because now you know all the secrets regarding building the strongest armies in the game. If you haven't done so yet, of course, drop a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and make sure you share this video with all of your Enlisted playing nerd friends, so we see more cool armies and balanced battles in our Enlisted games. See you next video, goodbye.